Hi, welcome to Story Sauce. I'm Sid.
And I'm Serena.
Hi, Serena.
Hi, Sid.
Hi, guys. At Story Sauce, we read you stories from all around the world with all different cultures, traditions from different eras, and we bring them all together in English into a big pot of story sauce. You can find questions to answer related to the video in the descriptions below. And if you click to our Facebook link, you'll get the answers to those questions, but try not to look at them until you've tried the questions. And also, if you click the card up in the corner, you can vote on whether you think the questions are too easy or too difficult. If you do enjoy our stories at Story Sauce, please subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notifications for when we put up some new stories.
Okay.
And like us on Facebook. Thanks. So, what are we going to read today, Serena?
Our story today is the tale of Ivan.
Oh.
And this is a Celtic traditional story, probably first told in the area of Cornwall in England about 1700 years ago.
1700 years ago? Wow. I think they probably didn't write it down then. They probably just told each other the stories, and over the years, the story traveled, and finally somebody wrote it down.
An old story.
Okay, cool.
There once was a man and a woman who lived in the parish of Lonlavan. At this time, work became very scarce. So the man, who was called Ivan, said to his wife, "I will go away to search for work, and you stay and live here until I return." So Ivan left his wife and traveled far toward the east, and at last came to the house of a farmer and asked him for work. "What work can you do?" asked the farmer. "I can do all kinds of work," replied Ivan. Ivan and the farmer agreed on £3 a year for his
£3?
wages. Yes.
Well, it was 1700 years ago.
When the end of the year came, the farmer showed Ivan the £3. "See, Ivan, here are your wages. But if you will give it back to me, I'll give you a piece of advice instead."
Oh.
"Give me my wages," said Ivan. "No, I shall not," said the farmer. "I will explain my advice to you."
Better be good.
"Fine, tell me then," Ivan answered. The farmer told Ivan, "Never leave the old road for the sake of a new road." Ivan listened to the advice, and then he and the farmer agreed that he would work on the farm for another year for another £3. However, at the end of the second year, the farmer again offered to give Ivan advice instead of his wages. "Never sleep in a place where an old man is married to a young woman,"
Oh, boy.
said the farmer.
Well, again, they agreed on yet another year for Ivan to work on the farm, and again for the same wages. But the same thing happened at the end of the third year when the piece of advice was, honesty is the best policy.
Oh, I did that one.
Yeah, we say that today. That's
Yeah.
a very common saying now in
It
English.
is.
But Ivan did not want to stay on the farm for a fourth year, and he dearly wanted to go back to his wife. "Don't go today," begged the farmer. "My wife is baking tomorrow, and she will make you a cake to take home to your good wife." So Ivan stayed one more night, and when he was going to leave the next day, the farmer said, "Here's the cake for you to take to your wife. But wait until the two of you are at the most joyful time in your marriage together, and then break the cake and eat it together, but no sooner." So Ivan said a kind goodbye to the farmer and his wife and traveled toward home. On his way there, he met 3 merchants from his own parish who were coming home from Exeter Fair. "Hello, Ivan," they cried. "Come with us. We're very glad to see you. Where have you been for so long?" "I've been working on a farm, and now I'm going home to my wife." "Oh, come with us. You'll be very welcome." As they walked on, the merchants began to travel on the new road. But Ivan, remembering the farmer's advice, stayed on the old road. Unfortunately, thieves fell upon the merchants before they had gone very far from Ivan, And as they were walking by the field of the houses in a meadow, they began to cry out, "Thieves!" Also, Ivan shouted out, "Thieves!"
But when the robbers heard Ivan shouting, they ran away, and the merchants traveled again by the new road, but Ivan by the old road, until they all met up at the marketplace. "Oh, Ivan," said the merchants, "we owe you a great deal. We would have been lost men if you had not saved us. Come and stay with us at our expense."
Oh, that's nice.
You are very welcome. The merchants and Ivan reached a place where they often used to stay, and Ivan said, "I must see the host of this place." "The host?" the merchants cried. "What do you want with the host? Here's the hostess, and she's very young and pretty. If you really must see the host, you'll find him in the kitchen." So Ivan went to the kitchen to see the host, and he found that the host was a weak old man turning the spit in the fireplace. "Oh," said Ivan to the merchants, again remembering the farmer's advice, "I'm not going to stay here. I'll go and stay next door." "No, not yet," they replied. "Come and eat supper with us. You are very welcome." Now it happened that the young, pretty hostess had plotted with a local monk to murder the old host,
Oh my
her
goodness.
husband, in his bed that very night, while everyone else was asleep. And the hostess and the monk agreed to blame the murder on the merchants
Oh no.
who were lodging there. While Ivan was in the bed next door, he noticed that there was a small hole in the end of his room,
Oh.
and through it he saw a light. He got out of bed and looked through the hole and heard the monk speaking.
"I'd better cover this hole," said the monk, "or people in the next house might see us kill the old man." So the monk stood with his back against the hole, while the hostess killed the old man, her husband. My goodness. Meanwhile, Ivan took out his knife and reached through the small hole and cut a round piece of material from the monk's robe. Pretty smart.
Clever. Yeah.
The next morning, the hostess cried out to everyone in the place that her husband had been murdered. And since there were no other lodgers than the merchants, it must have been they who killed her husband, and they should be hanged for it.
What a
The
setup.
merchants were then taken and carried away to prison, until at last Ivan came to them. "Alas, alas, Ivan," the merchants cried. "We do have so much bad luck. Our host was killed last night, and they are blaming us for his murder." "Well, we shall be hanged for it." "Ah," said Ivan, "tell the justices to summon the real murderers." "But who knows who they are?" said the merchants. "Who knows who committed the crime?" "Who committed the crime?" shouted Ivan. If I cannot prove who committed the crime, you can hang me in your place." Because he knew who did it.
He did.
So Ivan told the justices all that he knew about the murder, and brought out the piece of cloth from the monk's robe to show them. And with that, the merchants were set free, and the hostess and the monk were immediately seized and hanged.
After that, Ivan and the merchants all left the market together. And the merchant said to him, "Ivan, come as far as the wood of the heap of stones of watching in the parish of Burman."
Okay.
But the road before them again separated in two. And though the merchants wanted Ivan to accompany them, he very much wished to return to his wife. And so he took the road to lead him home. And when his wife saw him, she was very happy.
Yeah, I bet.
And said to him, "Ah, Ivan, you are home just in the nick of time. I have just found this purse full of gold.
Oh,
It has no name on it, but I'm sure it belongs to the great lord of our parish.
probably.
I was just wondering what to do about it when you arrived." Then Ivan thought about the third piece of advice from the farmer, and he said, "Let's go and return it to the Lord." So Ivan and his good wife went up to the Lord's castle, but the Lord was not at home. So they left the purse with the Lord's servant,
Uh-oh.
who watched the castle gate, and they returned home and lived quietly for a time. But one day, the Lord stopped by their house and asked them for a drink of water. Ivan's wife said to him, "I hope your lordship found your purse quite safe and with all its money in it." "What purse are you talking about?" asked the Lord. "It's the purse that we found and brought to your castle, Lord. We left it with your servant at the gate because you weren't at home." "Come with me," said the Lord, "and we shall look into this matter."
So Ivan and his wife went up to the castle with the Lord, and there they pointed out the servant whom they'd given the purse to. The servant confessed to his crime and was sent away from the castle for good.
Yeah.
The Lord was so pleased with Ivan and his wife that he gave Ivan the job of his servant in place of the thief who had stolen the purse filled with gold. Honesty is the best policy, Ivan said to himself as he skipped about in his new home. How joyful I am. Then he remembered the cake that the farmer and his wife had given him. Remember the cake?
Yes, I do.
The one that he was only supposed to eat when he and his wife were most full of joy. And so he and his wife at this time broke the cake to eat it. And lo and behold, inside it were all the wages for the 3 years that Ivan had worked for the farmer. So, see what happens if you're honest?
Yes. I like that.
And maybe if people give you advice, follow it? I don't know, maybe or not.
Maybe. Maybe not.
It's a very nice story. It's interesting because it's such an old story, and we still today use this expression. Honesty is the best policy. Yeah. It really, really is. Okay, we hope you enjoyed the tale of Ivan, the old Celtish tale. And we hope you join us again for Story Sauce. Lots more stories.
Bye-bye.
Bye.